Hey guys, me and Buster Green here. So this is my final review coming out of the Fantasia Film Festival. See, I was only in Canada for the weekend, so I only caught Shin Ultraman and then a sad and pointless Shinichiro Watanabe short film about a girl and a robot. But finally, for my last film, I decided to roll the dice and walk in blind to a random movie called Kappei. Now, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I ended up liking Kappei almost as much as Shin Ultraman, if not potentially more, for the fact that I had no idea this movie existed until I walked into it. And it actually made me super, super happy. Now, I thought this might be like a random Yakuza movie or some horror movie like with zombies, but oh my god, it was so good. Okay, Kappei is the most on-point deconstruction parody of the anime Fists of the North Star I have ever seen executed as a motion picture. Okay, that's a lot to unpack again. Okay, so... This was just a completely wild Japanese comedy movie, which for starters, I love wild Japanese comedy movies. They take a lot more risks than American movies have lately because of like the whole like way culture has like kind of killed comedy. And on top of that, it's a super focused parody movie, which I don't know why, but they don't make these in America anymore. Like when I was a kid in the 90s, they made these kind of movies. There was Naked Gun making fun of cop dramas. There was Robin Hood Men in Tights making fun of Robin Hood dramas. Like, what happened to the art of making movies just to shit on another movie? Has that been forgotten? Like, seriously, America still makes dumb movies. So why isn't anyone making movies where they make fun of dumber movies? Like, it's super easy to make a fucking full feature-length movie shitting on 30 Shades of Grey with all its sex shit, or, I don't know, La La Land? Look at that movie. It's 2 hours of sad dancing hipsters in the LA smog. Come on, that writes itself. Alright, so I've realized that America has really forgotten how to do a super focused parody. Meanwhile, this time, Japan has stepped up, and my friggin' god, this is such a super focused parody of Fists of the North Star. Which I guess is old enough that I guess old man MB needs to recap that for you, huh? Okay, so Fist of the North Star, originally a manga, 1983. Yo, this book is older than I am. Okay, so Hokuto no Ken is the story of a martial artist named Kenshiro who lives in a lawless post-apocalyptic wasteland in the year 1999 after human society has been almost wiped out in the Third World War. Now, initially the story is just about Kenshiro trying to survive in the wasteland and deal with punks. But as time goes on, he saves more and more people and becomes a kind of savior figure. And eventually this gets invoked as other martial artists show up from Kenshiro's past, and they've all become conquerors, hedonists, warlords. It is a lawless era where only the strong survive. Now, the first story arc was the first 20 episodes of the anime. Kenshiro's former best friend Shion steals his wife and leaves him for dead, leading to his wife's eventual suicide, and meanwhile Kenshiro slowly tracks him down and kills him for that. And then after that, the entire rest of the story, which is like the next 80-90 episodes of pure anime, is just Kenshiro's backstory and how his older brother Rao took over the world and became the King of the Fist. And various strange characters show up on his journey, and he's either at odds with them or they're at odds with Rao, and there are factions, there are wars. Fist of the North Star was the most groundbreaking anime of the 1980s because it was one of the first anime specifically created for adults. Because the premise was essentially just Mad Max the Road Warrior, but what if the main character was Bruce Lee? Because Bruce Lee could fucking kill anyone with his bare hands, so he doesn't need fucking guns like that punk Mel Gibson. So anyway, yeah, that's Fist of the North Star. Angry Bruce Lee killing people with his bare hands in Mad Max land. Now, at the time it originally aired in 1980, it was considered to be the most violent anime ever fucking made in history. And the anime was actually important enough that a live fucking action movie of this anime was made in fucking 1995, making it potentially the first ever Japanese anime to be ruined as a bad Hollywood live action film. I'm not going to talk about this film. It completely sucks. And just looking up again, I realized it was so bad that people have nicknamed Kenshiro Condom Man in this film because they made the bullet holes in his chest out of condoms. Anyway, enough talking about Hokuto. Let's go back to Kappei. Now, like I said, Kappei is such a super focused Fist of the North Star parody that I never thought I would get, and I'm so happy I got. The premise of Kappei is that a group of brothers were trained in top secret to learn this assassination martial art. That's the same premise as Hokuto no Ken, except in 1999, instead of the world ending, nothing fucking happened. So eventually they all just got bored and left. Now they all come to Tokyo, and when they all come to Tokyo, the first thing they want to do is get laid. But they're also all virgins, so they're bad at it. So yeah, literally this movie is what if Hokuto no Ken characters, but in normal society, trying to get laid. And that's all you need. Now this is apparently based on a gag manga by Kiminori Wakasagi, who some of you might remember from Detroit Metal City. After this movie, I gotta say, Wakasugi knows his shit, he knows his comedy. He has consistently made some of the funniest Japanese shit I've ever seen. Now, DMC was a little bit more accessible than this because that was a completely original idea and it was just about like rock music, whereas this is a hyper-focused parody of Hokuto no Ken. But at the same time, if you've seen Hokuto no Ken, this is the funniest shit I've ever seen. Now, I might as well bring up DMC for a second because I don't think I'm going to review DMC ever. DMC in 2011 was made into a live-action movie and an anime at literally the same time. And I watched both of them. I watched the live-action movie first. The live-action movie was better. It had a much higher budget. It had a cameo by Kiss. It seems like they put more work into the music. And then I watched the anime, and the anime was pointless. It had all the same jokes as the movie. It was just 100% the same, 100% a waste of time. I turned on the anime expecting to get more, and instead I got a worse version of the exact same thing. Now, I think Kappei hilariously works as a live-action film. I know it is originally based on a gag manga, but from what I've seen of it, the manga is kind of literally drawn bad on purpose because that's part of the joke. But I think that undercuts what this is doing because the characters are really only funny in the live-action movie because you're taking them seriously. Now, don't get me wrong, they still look ridiculous in live action because they're wearing like parodies of the outfits from Hokuto no Ken, but it's ridiculous in a different way that works because it's just like, look at that ridiculous guy trying to be taken seriously in those ridiculous clothes. Now, my point is though that if you're watching this in the future and at some point they have made a Kappei anime, just don't watch it. It's not going to be better than this movie. At least DMC wasn't, so my expectations are low. Anyway, so on to the actual movie. So the first couple minutes, you introduce Kappei and you introduce the martial arts cult. And what I love about this movie is it's laser focused on the weakest parts of Hokuto no Ken's storylines. And it just somehow managed to isolate those, stab a knife in them, and bleed them out for comedy for 2 hours. Now, yeah, okay, I'll be real. It's a little bit weird and a little bit sketchy that we're several top secret martial arts cults operating inside of Hokuto no Ken, and that they seemingly had no reasonable function in society until an apocalypse happened. So yeah, that's something Kappei makes fun of. The other thing Kappei really makes fun of is Yuria. Okay, so Hokuto no Ken is a story about the manliest men who ever lived and like what it means to be a man. And it's only right that the manliest man ever is married to the most womanly woman who ever womaned. So that is Yuria. Yuria is Ken's wife, and in the original Hokuto no Ken, she is dead for like 80% of the story. However, despite that, Yuria is put on such a pedestal as to be the only fuckable woman on Earth, which is hilarious because there are plenty of other women in Hokuto no Ken. It's just no one wants to be with them for various reasons. So in Kappei, where they take this is there's this random fucking girl named Haru Yamase. She's a super basic Japanese girl. She's very cute, but she's literally just a random normal girl, and she's the first girl Kappei meets on the street. And she somehow ends up evolving into this ultimate woman Yuria role, and it's hilarious because she's just a fucking random girl with nothing special about her. But all of a sudden, like, all these fucking, like, dramatic muscle men are out here, like, being intensely fascinated with her, and, like, they're, like, so dangerous, and it's just hilarious. Like, as soon as I saw the movie leading into that, I knew exactly what they were getting at, and it just was so fucking good, guys. Anyway, I'm not going to fully recap the movie because I don't think anyone except me has seen this movie, but if you guys are fucking fans of Hokuto no Ken, you literally cannot miss this movie. There's this fucking brilliant part early on where like Kappei uses the Musai Tenso from Hokuto, and it looks so good because I've never seen that in live action before because, you know, live action Hokuto movie fucked it up. Didn't even get to that part. So I see it here and oh my god, it looks effing good. But yeah, this movie is so fucking funny. And like all throughout the film, like people keep like calling the police on Kappei to stop him. But the police show up and they're just like 100% aware of who he is, that he has like super speed death fists. So instead they just kind of clear out a space for him and watch what he's doing. Kappei gets a fucking 10 out of 10. I don't fucking care. This was a dedicated 2-hour Fist of the North Star parody. It should not exist. It made me happy. There were dancing, there were hookers. It had everything you need in a fucking movie. Cons. To fully understand this movie, you have to watch all 110 episodes of the original 1980s Fist of the North Star anime. Otherwise, you won't get all the jokes. So, get it to doing that. Alright, so that's my last review video for a while. I'm finally caught up on reviewing movies, at least movies that I think only I've seen. Now I need to play some video games and go back to making my own anime. Later, guys!